So at Eon, what we do is we power connected products, and our work is focused on bringing each and every product online such that brands have the digital foundation to operationalize and scale these circular business models. We bring each product online such that the item is connected and identified for its entire life cycle from the moment it's produced through use, reuse, next life, and beyond. And I'm going to back up to sort of explain what's happening in industry and why this is such a pivotal moment for product digitization. So consumer behavior, as we know, is changing rapidly across fashion and retail. First, we're seeing massive rise in new consumption patterns. The growth of resale is 21x out of fast fashion, and it will be bigger than fast fashion within the next 10 years. Consumers are being drawn towards sustainability, brands with brand integrity. I'm sure this audience is well familiar with many of these value propositions, so I'll skip quickly through it. But we're also seeing how much data and personalization and the use of that kind of technology is enables brands to increase sales and customer connections and loyalty. And customers are also increasing online and mobile shopping, up by 35% anticipated in 2021. And so with all of those kind of big changes, what's happening for brands and retailers is they don't exactly have the solutions, the technology, the systems in place to service these changing consumption patterns. So today, brands lose the relationship with customers and products at point of sale, right? We're all familiar with the fact that a tag is on a product when it's sold, that tag has a barcode, that product is identified, and then once that product is sold, it's really lost to the brand, and it's essentially impossible to identify, track, monetize that product through new business models. That means that all of these new changing consumption patterns, the ability to connect and service the customer, is lost to the brand at point of sale. And so without ongoing digital identification of products, it's impossible for brands to generate ongoing revenue from products. They can't even ID their own products for resale. They can't build an ongoing connection with customers. They don't have any data or insights post-sale to inform personalization. They can't control their brand. And they also can't power these new applications like digital wardrobe and services and personalization that can come from connected products. And so product digitization is really foundational for brands to service today's customers and win tomorrow's market. So basically what it enables brands to do is, one, turn each product into a vehicle for communication with the customer to build that ongoing relationship. They are able to generate more revenue reselling products again and again, increasing revenue and control from assets. They're able to access data and insights into customer utilization, product feedback to inform supply and demand matching. Very importantly, they're able to power sustainable and circular business models. Now this product can be ID'd for recycling, for rental, and operationalized through resale. Also, it will be a requirement for upcoming policy. And now, once that product's digitized, it can be connected to a whole new world of applications like smart mirrors and digital wardrobes. So what we do at Eon is we're fashion and retail's leading enterprise platform solution for product digitization. And we are bringing each and every physical garment online. So if you're not familiar with the world of IoT, essentially what we're doing is we're giving every product a digital birth certificate and passport. Right? That product now has an identity or a digital twin in the cloud. It has data associated to it. It also has a front-end customer experience that can be driven. And on the back end, that product collects data. So every time that product is interacted with, that is what we call the digital passport, and all of that event data gets associated with the item. So we are working in partnership with Microsoft to bring 400 million products online by 2025 to really scale digitization and build that foundation for circular commerce for industry. We're servicing some of the largest global brands and retailers. We have really built our solution to integrate with the existing enterprise tech stack. And so we're partnered with groups like SAP, GS1, Microsoft to, one, understand how that product data is structured today, and also simplify the creation of that ID. In terms of the partner network section, Eon also works with, has brought online some of the largest circular economy players, enabling data to be exchanged between brands and their partners. And I'll give an overview into that in just a moment. So what makes Eon unique is that we are the first platform in the industry to connect products from new to renew. So the idea is that the product is digitized at the onset. That ID is embedded in the product via some form of enabling identifier, whether it's RFID, NFC, QR code, or Bluetooth. And then once ID'd, that product can communicate to all forms of different applications, either directly via this QR code scan or via mobile app, unlocking other sorts of experiences. And so now this product can be used to power both front-end customer experience, as well as the same ID gets used to power back-end, inventory management, ID for resale, and all of those sort of business processes. So our thesis at Eon is you'll have one ID, and that one ID will communicate to all the different partners, customers, and applications for that product across its life cycle. And what really makes this exciting is this sort of network and ecosystem. So we are sitting at the heart of this retail ecosystem, and we developed into something called Industry Circular ID Protocol, which is basically the language in which we digitize products with. So you could think of it as when we were speaking about that birth certificate, what data do we include in that product birth certificate, and how do we structure that data such that key business processes can be facilitated from that product's ID? So I'll give you an example. In order to resell a product, one of the most important data attributes is MSRP, or the original retail price. So associating that data to the product's identity is crucial. In order to recycle a product, some of the most important data is material content, chemical content, thread type. We also associate that data to the ID. And then also looking at how that data is structured so it can communicate between brands and the recycling partners, between brands and resellers, between brands and digital wardrobes. So the Circular ID protocol was codified through a 3-year research and development process in combination with industry. And now that protocol is the foundation for Eon's platform and our ability to exchange data across this partner network. So I'm going to take a moment to pause to just see, because I can't have the chat open at the same time, and just see if there are any questions. It doesn't look like it, but there are a lot of hellos. And oh, Brian, is there an opportunity to ID pre-existing apparel? Yes. So Brian, we call that at Eon retroactive ID, or the ability to ID products post-sale. And retroactive ID, you can't, sometimes you won't have all the information, but you can still ID the product. The one thing that can't happen is in retroactive ID is authentication, because only the original brand at time of production can create that sort of authentic certificate for that product ID. All right, I'll kick off back into screen share for a moment and then come back to questions. Okay, so basically through each connected product, just to give you guys like a concrete ideas of how this looks, right? Through our platform, brands are able to associate experiences to that connected product. Now, the content that gets associated is custom per brand, but they use our platform to link whatever content they want to associate. So this content, depending on the brand's objectives, can be used to drive sales, personalization. So for example, we're working with a brand that's t-shirts, it's more subscription-based, you scan and you can reorder, right? It can be used to communicate the product values, the sustainability, the integrity. It can also be used to control the resale of that product, right? If I'm a brand and I have my own resale program, I want to direct and steward the customer to resell through me, not through a third-party channel. And when you direct the customer to resell through you, you also have the opportunity to resell to them and offer them credits and build and maintain that customer relationship. So basically, through each of these IDs is a unique bespoke customer experience that aligns with the brand's values and their target audience. We're seeing very high engagement in the QR codes. And we're also, in terms of these sort of customer analysis and studies that have been done, the user does experience sort of excitement and interest when seeing a QR code on the product, and is even further excited when the content is unique to that specific product, right? Tell me something about this exact sweater that I don't know. And so it's very interesting to sort of see the engagement and the value proposition that's being brought forward. So then this is the front end side, right? What's possible with the customer. And then on the back end side, we're digitizing with brands because they'll also leverage that same ID to ID that product for returns, to ID that product for recycling, and to ID that product for resale, bringing transparency to post-sale operations. And through the platform, Eon provides brands the ability to ID the product, but we also provide brands and their partners tools to then retroactively sort of identify that product. So for example, if there's a VF Corp who's partnered with a renewal workshop who runs their resale business, Eon will sit between the brand and their partner, the resale partner, exchanging that product data and enabling that resale partner to ID and authenticate the product on behalf of the client who digitized with Eon, which would be VF. Right, so that data exchange between brand and partners is something that's facilitated through the platform and enabled through the protocol. Now, what starts to happen is every product becomes a data generating asset once digitized, unlocking really unprecedented intelligence for competitive advantage and hyper-personalization, as well as incredibly valuable environmental data related to product circularity. So for the first time, what's happening with Eon's platform is each item becomes a unique snowflake, right? So today in fashion and retail, brands only really track products at a SKU level. So if you have 1 million versions of this sweater, they're all the same SKU. What Eon's platform has done is now each singular sweater is unique. And so now that unique ID of that sweater can also be associated with that unique ID of that customer, unlocking really powerful services, customer experiences, and data. We're also getting data about the circular life cycle of a product. So recycling rates, resale rates and values. So both this kind of environmental insights and new business models come together with this sort of matrix of item level visibility. The upcoming aspect of this is that this will soon be required, right? So policy and legislation is mandating and accelerating digitization. Both the EU Commission, the Green New Deal, is looking at requirements for electronic passports for apparel, right? So you will have to ID your products. You will have to be accountable for them post-sale and for their circularity. The US FTC is also looking at initiatives to digitize and modernize the care label, where Eon is a technology advisor. So now that information can also be included in this label, getting rid of all that extra sort of content within a product, all those papers that are in the side. So just to give you a little bit of tangible visibility into a brand that recently made their digitization efforts with Eon public, we are working with Yoox Net-a-Porter. They are digitizing all of their private label brands with Eon, and we will be also looking to roll out digitization with their third-party brand partners. So the objective of these endeavors is to, one, build and maintain and service that customer relationship ongoing, and then also steward resale through the brand-owned channels, right? Now that this product is digitized, don't bring it to a third-party channel like The RealReal, bring it back into our ecosystem, and that enables YNAP to both increase the revenue that they're able to generate per product and also keep and maintain that customer relationship. So in terms of what it actually looks like to connect a physical product, the process for us is pretty simple. Given all the work that has been done to develop tools to enable this. But basically, we work with brands to first select the product, right? Starting, where would you like to start your digitization journey? a lot of the brands we're seeing now have been moving from, okay, digitize one collection to we need all of our products ID'd within the next 2 years. You know, this sort of switch to non-ID worlds to an ID world is happening very quickly. And then once we select that sort of product to start with, looking at whether it's a signature product, a product with a great transparency story or narrative to bring forward, a product that has an existing circular model like a resale channel, although that's not essential. The next step is we digitize that product. So we're collecting that product's circular ID data and generating that product's digital profile. And there are two ways to do this. In the short term, we do that via Excel upload. So we export data from the brand's existing product data system, and then we import it into the Eons system. For the brands that are scaling digitization across their enterprise, that is not a viable or scalable method. And so we integrate with their ERP or their PIM system where their product data is, and that ID, that item level ID, gets automatically generated when that product's SKU is created. And then within the Eon platform, we generate the NFC tags, the QR codes, the RFID. We don't actually provide those, but we work with the brand's existing label provider to basically provide that technology and attach it at the factory. And then through the platform, the brand can associate the customer experience that they want to the product. They can invite their circular partners. So who does the brand want to enable? You know, which partners of the brand do they want to provide the ability to ID their products? So if I'm H&M and I'm partnered with ICO, my recycling partner, I'm going to give them the ability to ID those products for recycling. And then, of course, once that product is ID'd, the brand can also connect their own application. So you can take the H&M app and now scan that product and associate Natasha to that specific sweater. So basically, this intersection between customer ID and product ID becomes possible once you start to build applications that connect to the product ID. Awesome. Okay. So we have a few questions. Ty, it looks like I answered your question. Neil, is there a reason this couldn't be applied to any other durable type of product? Actually, that's a wonderful question. We are beginning some projects with furniture. We also are starting on some work with consumer packaged goods, which is, you know, exciting to look at both containers and new business models, service, repair, and care. And so we do believe that any physical good that gets produced should be ID'd. So I'm going to open up to some of the people who are actually joining on video so we can get a little diversity here. Okay. I think I accepted. Jane, are you able to join?
Oh, hi, Natasha. I was wondering if you could just talk about Eon's role in educating the retail space, as well as possibly the recent report that Eon worked on and sort of why that was created.
Yeah. So when we started, we found that we were, like to your point, doing a lot of work to educate brands and retailers. And with IoT, it's kind of interesting. Like as a brand and retailer, your business is not, you know, necessarily, you're not an Internet of Things business. And so IoT really makes brands and retailers kind of question, like, what industry are we really in? Because all of a sudden, your physical products are becoming digital assets. And so we felt that there needed to be resources for brands to understand how to think about this. And also, our work is so cross-department. Like, this is technology, this is sustainability and marketing. So like how to bring those different departments together to digitize and also ensure that product ID did incorporate sustainable data. Like we were seeing a lot of digitization products that didn't necessarily loop in any of the circular ID data. And so with the report, our goal was to provide, for those who aren't familiar, we wrote a report called the Connected Products Economy, which is about 80 pages. It's pretty long. And it's available on our website if you're interested to download it, but it brought together about, I'd say 25 different industry players who contributed content to that. And Yeah, it was really about sort of putting that thesis and ideas forward and giving industry the tools to do so. And so with that, we also, the circular ID protocol is also was introduced through that report, and we'll also be making that protocol available publicly to industry.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Does the protocol integrate place or location data for the fiber country? Yes. So, Jean, that's a great question. In terms of the circular ID protocol, we are associating each item back to a facility in which that item was created. And that gets very exciting from, a transparency and social impact perspective, because each factory, each product now has an ID and a facility in which it was made. In terms of the way that we associate the product to the facility is leveraging the Open Apparel Registry's ID number system. So Open Apparel Registry has given factories IDs, and then that factory can also have associated data with it in terms of its performance and its environmental and social impacts. So yes, that's a very exciting piece for us. Brilliant idea. How do you ensure the individuality? Every label will have a different QR code. Yes, every label does have a different QR code. So those get each, basically what the brand does is they create the product profile. So each shirt, right, of the same size, color has a profile. And then basically, once you have that product level profile, all you have to do is indicate how many items of that product you're creating, and our platform uniquely serializes and generates unique QR codes at the item level. And then those files are sent via API to the QR code printer and attached to the product. In terms of application, it's actually not very hard to attach the individual QR codes to the product because they're still, at point of creation, all the products are identical of that same size. So it doesn't really matter which individual one you attach to the product. Are there privacy concerns? Yes. So basically, Eon is a product data platform. We are not a customer data platform. And so that is very distinct. We, at this stage, don't really store any customer data at all, nor are we tracking the product without the customer's engagement. So when you see a QR code, right, you have to opt in to scan that product. It's not as though you're being tracked just by, holding the product. And any sort of engagement within the QR code, your ability to say, this is, Sarah's sweater, that does require opt-in, GDPR compliance, as well as the right to be forgotten and disassociated from the product. Similar to Cam, okay, next question. How do you govern who gets to read, write data through the protocol? Do you need to set the policies, and how do you convince brand to allow you to hold their data? Wonderful question. So we operate as a software as a service solution, like a Salesforce. So we're not actually owning the data, taking any sort of control of the data. We're rather giving brands the ability to share the data. So some brands, for example, don't want resale operated by third parties. They won't provide third parties' ability to authenticate their products. And where we are pushing industry, though, is key data attributes for, circularity, like recycling, like material content, like chemicals. Those data points need to be sort of publicly available. So we are bringing together a global circular ID protocol standards advisory committee who will govern the protocol and the field development on an ongoing basis. But really, in terms of Eon's business model, we're software as a service, and the brands can control through the platform who they want to share the data with. And one of the big problems for brands and retailers today is they don't have actually data sharing services. So your ERP system or your PLM system where you store and manage your product data today, it was not designed to share data with third parties. Eon's platform is deliberately designed almost like a data lake for brands to enable them to externally share data with third parties. My question is on security. How secure the underlying protocol is? Great, thanks for the question. So the protocol is really, the protocol is not the technology. The protocol is just the data structure. Eon's platform is the technology. And basically, the protocol will be open and available for industry, so other third parties could also leverage the protocol. In terms of the implementation of the protocol, that will, of course, depend on the underlying technology that is digitizing the products. Eon's platform is built on Azure. We have best-in-class security, privacy control methods in place. But yeah, that will be on a case-by-case basis in terms of where the digitization takes place. How do you tackle the issue of the same product components being manufactured in different manufacturer locations? An issue for country of origin for electronics. Same product components being great. That is actually also a problem in apparel because, so I think the question is, and please feel free to correct me if this is not the question, but basically for a brand, a global brand, they may have a shirt, a SKU of shirt that is made in both China and India at two different facilities, right? But it's the same actual product. And basically for us, those are unique products. And now, so basically the shirt that is created at the facility in China is a serialized ID that's associated back to the OAR, Open Apparel Registry facility in which it originated in, versus the shirt that is created within the India facility has a different sort of profile and it has a different OAR ID associated back to the facility that it originated in. So yes, an issue in electronics and also an issue in apparel because people want to know where their products came from. If that product came from this facility versus that facility, with today's consumers, that's a different product. Has an alternate to the QR code been considered? As this scales up, you could potentially have billions of QR codes or a combo of QR and proprietary. Great. So we view the sort of what we call digital identifier landscape as changing very quickly. So the digital identifier is basically what do you attach to the physical product to bring it online? Right now, QR code is the most ubiquitous, right? It is readable by any mobile device. It's very cost effective. It's durable, right? But we're also seeing, and we'll be announcing some projects in the upcoming months where NFC is being used. And NFC is becoming, in a zipper or in a button, right? And now that means that the customer can connect to that product simply by tapping. So the hardware landscape is changing very, very quickly. And as a platform, we're hardware agnostic because, not one size fits all. And we want to be able to support our brands wherever they move forward. Great. Congratulations. How does Eon monetize all of this? Who is paying for this? Great question. So as a software as a service solution, Eon is paid for by the brands and retailers. So we currently, don't charge any of the recyclers who would access data. We don't charge the recycler or the resellers who have products. And we don't charge, digital wardrobes who are trying to access the data. We really are a software as a service that the brand is using the product IDs to, the platform to create their IDs and build those connections. In the future, I hope, it becomes, the data becomes valuable. And basically the third parties are also, they become a business source for us because that will also help to spread the digitization costs across industry. Okay. So this is super exciting. Thank you so much for the time. It was really nice to, how can you identify family purchases or individual purchases? Great. So in terms of the ability to associate an individual to a product, that is, again, done on an opt-in basis. So the customer has to scan the product to associate their ID, or through the online purchase, the brand can invite the customer to do that. So basically, if you think about it today, the brand has the customer ID, but they don't have the product ID. What Eon is doing is providing them the product ID such that they can marry it to the customer, but the actual sort of user journey of marrying the customer ID to the product has to happen through the brand's system, because they need to sort of provide the brand the rights and us the rights to do so. Are there any concerns around the ability to replicate QR codes? Yes, QR codes are not a technology that we use for authentication. So if you're interested in authentication, there are much stronger solutions. The strongest, in our opinion, is digital fingerprinting, where an image of this section, of a photo of this section of a product is taken at production, and then when that product comes back, that a photo of that same, micro photo of that same point on the product gets taken and then cross-compared and gets used to authenticate that product. So digital fingerprinting is one of the strongest forms of authentication, virtually sort of impossible to replicate. And then we can also do authentication with NFC. How do you engage with the consumer? How do you encourage customers to scan the QR code? That's a great question. So first of all, this sort of the customer understanding of QR codes is very high right now, which is great for connected products. It's also native to the iPhone, and other mobile devices. So a few years ago, it used to be that you had to download an app to then scan a QR code. Now you can scan a QR code and be directly connected. So a lot of the initial barriers to entry for QR codes and for IoT have been lifted with the ability to kind of have these things directly accessible and open on the mobile device. NFC is also now in the latest version of the iPhone, directly open, directly accessible via the iPhone without an app. So I'd say that's one of the things that's really benefiting and accelerating the adoption of IoT. With brands that are rolling out their first connected products, we do work with them on a customer engagement campaign, informing their customers, having some form of communications in the packaging, in the email that further speaks to the ID and the purpose of the ID. Thanks, Neil. Can customers interact through product lifecycle with this technology? And will Eon provide analytics platform for brands to analyze data logged in the ID? So the first question, can customers interact with brand through product lifecycle with this technology? I think I understand, but basically, yes, the customer can interact with the brand and sort of share what they are doing with the product as well, right? This product was worn, this product was styled with, this product was added to my digital wardrobe. And that can happen either through the redirect experience or via a third-party mobile app like a digital wardrobe that is then putting the data back, sending hitting the Eon API and sending the data back. So yes, it does become, what we get really excited about is this two-way communication channel between brand and customer. And in terms of your second question, yes, Eon does provide analytics for brands to analyze data logged in the digital ID. So we have both an item level view where you're able to see the item level profile of this specific product and its life cycle. Then we also have an aggregated view where you can see, okay, across all of these products, this was the feedback, this was the utilization, this was the resale rate, this was the period of time in which it was resold, sort of all of that aggregated data and the metadata associated with that. Wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been, well, I wish it was in person, but it's been a fun experience to connect with all of you. You can, if you have further questions, you can reach me at natasha@eongroup.co. I'm also active on LinkedIn. And yes, please follow or subscribe on our website. We'll be announcing some upcoming, very pioneering circular projects in the upcoming weeks. So thank you so much.